Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone to our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So last time we were talking about Bhagavad Gita Chapter 2, text number 60 to 65 we covered last time, where Krishna is talking about controlling the senses, not just controlling the senses, but focusing on the Supreme Lord, concentrating the senses. And that is the way of really conquering the senses. And Krishna talk about the process of fall down, how the fall down happens. Or in one sense, we can say the process to avoid the fall down, right? How we can avoid the fall down. So the entanglement of senses starts with contemplation on sense object, not just looking or hearing about the object of enjoyment, but when we try to contemplate on that, regularly think about that object. And that's how the process of our entanglement starts, fall down starts. And the process how we can receive the mercy of the Lord, the prasad. It says, text number 65, where Krishna is talking about prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetaso hayasu buddhir paryavashishthate. So for one who is satisfied in Krishna consciousness, for him the threefold miseries of material existence do not exist. And in that satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So he receives the mercy, prasade. So he receives the mercy. One who get prasad means the higher taste, the grace of the Lord, all the miseries go away. So one may question how all the misery go away. Will there be not so much hot, not so much cold? One may not get diseased or old age. So how one can say the threefold miseries do not react on him, do not exist for him? The point is, when somebody develops that higher taste in Krishna consciousness, there is so much joy. The joy of Krishna consciousness is so great, even if there is any material misery there, that does not matter. For example, I believe we discussed this example last time. So if there is a plate of chappan bhog, right? In that, if one item is not good, one person doesn't feel miserable. Okay, there are so many other nice items to enjoy. If there is one little item which is not tasting as good, no problem. But if one has only one item, let's say one has only chapati to eat, and that chapati is also so dry, then one may feel miserable. So in material life, That's why the material miseries seems so problematic. But in Krishna consciousness, when somebody is feeling so much joy, so much taste, then one is not bothered about other problems of life because they have the higher taste. So now, text 26 onwards, Krishna is further continuing explaining on this concept of controlling the senses and focusing on the Supreme Lord. And one way of controlling the senses is to not give to the desires which come in the mind or which are proposed by the senses. So text 66. Nasti buddhir avyuktasya nacha avyuktasya bhavana nacha abhavana yatho shantir ashantasya kutah sukham. So one who is not connected with the Supreme, na asti buddhir ayuktasya. So one is not connected with the Supreme, who is not connected in Krishna consciousness. He cannot have transcendental intelligence. Nacha avyuktasya bhavana. And somebody who is not having that transcendental intelligence or a steady mind, then where is the question of peace? Nacha abhavanayatah shantir. Ashantasya kuta sukham. And when somebody doesn't have peace, where is question of happiness? So to derive that happiness, one need to first feel peaceful. And to have peace of mind, one need to have transcendental intelligence. And for the transcendental intelligence, one need to be connected with the Supreme. So that is to look at it from the reverse way. So if we really want to derive that happiness, one need to find peace. And how does peace come? Peace comes when the mind and intelligence are focused. If our mind and intelligence are going here and there to so many different things, always running in multiple direction, or even going in one direction but in the wrong direction, in the going to the dangerous place, so there cannot be peace in that case. And for happiness, there has to be a basic level of peace. So it does not mean devotees do not take anxiety. In the life of devotee, even in the life of a sannyasi, in the life of monk also, yes, there is anxiety. But internal peace is there. Externally, yes, they are trying to serve Krishna. They are trying to achieve many things for Krishna, right? For preaching for the pleasure of Krishna, building temple for the pleasure of Krishna, engaging in so many nice projects for pleasure of Krishna. So yes, at external level, they may also have anxiety, but taking anxiety for Krishna is much more better than taking anxiety for material life. So we are talking about here internal focus, internal clarity, internal peace. We are not talking about external peace. Yes, there may be external anxiety, but devotees have that clarity, that focus, what they are trying to achieve. So there is peace in their heart. Many people in we see in the world, in our Western countries, people try to keep things very clean. So externally it may be clean, but internally people may have so much unclean desires. We cannot judge just based on external cleanliness. If somebody is suited booted with tie and nicely groomed, nice suited booted person, people call, oh, he's looking like a gentleman. So externally people may be nice looking, nice dressed with a nice smile on their face, but we cannot say that internally also they are happy, they are peaceful, right? People put a mask on their face these days. Most people in this world are putting external mask on their face. They may be smiling from outside, but internally they're broken. They may have so many problems in life. You go to any hotel reception, they may welcome the person, right? The receptionist is always having that smile on the face, welcoming the guest with a nice smile. Doesn't mean they don't have problem in life. They are very peaceful. They may also have so many problems in life. So we set the goal, but ultimately the peace and happiness doesn't come by setting the goal. Peace and happiness comes by achievement of our goals. And we need to set ultimate goal of developing our relationship with Krishna. And when we work towards that goal, when we have that clarity that yes, that is my ultimate goal, then we develop that peace of heart, peace of mind. When we say peace of heart, it is combination of mind and intelligence. Our mind and intelligence is peaceful. That's what peaceful heart means. So the bottom line statement of this particular verse, which Krishna is saying, no God, no peace. KNOW. So no God, no peace. But on the other side, if there is no God, NO, no God, then there is no peace. So our goal should be to know Krishna and connect with Krishna, and in that way to develop that peace and happiness. So text 67, Indriyanam hi charatam yan mano anuvidhiyate tad asya harati pragya vayurnavam ivambasi. Here Krishna gives another analogy how our mind is carried away. So he's saying, as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. So, very beautiful analogy. A boat on the water is carried away, right? If the boat, you are rowing the boat, when if the wind comes from the back, the boat will automatically move with much faster speed. So it will be swept away. Same way, if one of our senses is focusing on the sense object and it is dictating to the mind, arrange for my enjoyment. So one of the roaming senses on which the mind start to contemplate, it can carry away a man's intelligence. So how one will be deluded if one is not careful, right? Krishna is saying if one is not careful, that person can be deluded. So analogies of the wind, of the boat and the wind. Now in the material world also, our the desires which come, they are like the wind, and we become vulnerable to those desires. So we ultimately have to protect ourselves from so many contaminating desires. Senses are always searching for enjoyment. Senses are always searching, oh, where can I get pleasure? But when mind become focused on it, then mind drags away the intelligence. So it is very similar to what was talked about in text 260, right? Where Krishna says, Dhyayate Vishayan Pumsa Sangas Teshopajayate. So in that verse, the focus was on the senses drag away the mind. In this verse, focus is on the mind, that the mind drags away the intelligence. So it starts with senses, senses drag away the mind, and then mind drag away the intelligence. Because one of our senses which is trying to contemplate on particular enjoyment, if the eyes are contemplating, I want to watch something, and our mind has started focusing on that, it will drag away our intelligence also. We may be very rational person, what is right, what is wrong, but once our mind has contemplated on something, then intelligence is also dragged away. So like the bee, there is a nice story of a bee which is mentioned in the Upanishads. So bee is sitting on a lotus flower and drinking the nectar from the lotus flower. Now as the sun starts to set, as the sunset is happening, the petal of the lotus flower, they start to close. Now the bee is so much into enjoying that honey, that nectar from the lotus, because that is the sense enjoyment of the bee, right? The object of its sense is to drive that nectar from the lotus. So the bee should be flying away from that lotus at the time of sunset, but because it is too attached to enjoying that nectar, it refuses to fly off. It think, oh, I still have some more time before the flower closes. Let me still suck out some more nectar while I can. And in that way, the flower is closing and closing, and the bee thinks, oh, no harm. If the flower is closing, that's okay. I can maybe stay inside the flower, and tomorrow morning when the flower will open again, then I will fly away. So at the night the flower closes, and in the morning before the flower opens again, the bee is dead inside the flower. The same bee actually has the potential to cut through the wood. So it does not have any difficulty to cut through those gentle lotus petals, right? The soft lotus petals. But because the bee is so attached to the nectar of the flower, it doesn't try to leave, and it becomes engrossed in that. So same way, the person who is trying to enjoy in this material world, they become so engrossed in enjoying the worldly pleasure, their senses are dictating something and mind goes to that and it drags away the intelligence also. So text 68, Krishna further says, tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani indriyanarthyabhyas tasya pragya pratishtitah. So therefore, O mighty armed mahabaho, one whose senses are restrained from their object is certainly situated in transcendental knowledge. Tasya pragya pratisthita. So again, Krishna is saying, don't let any of the senses wander around. Test of one's strength is not bigger body, bigger muscles, bigger biceps, but the ability to control one's urges and to have that determination. That is the test of one's strength. People, they try to win over the world, but they are not able to win over their own mind. That's why in Hindi there is a saying, man jeete jag jeet. If somebody who has conquered their own mind, somebody who has controlled over their mind and senses, they are actually the winner of the world. Because otherwise winning the external world does not matter. Alexander the Great, when he was winning over different regions of India, ultimately he reached Vrindavan. Right? He came across the huts of the sages, and there are sages who are living in the tiny hut. There is a small door inside, and Alexander was standing outside, and he commanded, let them, these sages, come and pay obeisances to me. And the sage is still sitting inside peacefully and doing his sadhana, his meditation. Ultimately, Alexander, he entered inside the hut by bowing down his head, because the door is so small. To enter inside that, one has to bend down. And the sage, the lesson which the sage gave him is, see, you may be winning over the whole world, but you have not won over your senses. No matter how much you have, but you are not satisfied, you are still trying to gain more and more. The real winner is somebody who is satisfied with what they have, when they have controlled over their senses. So that is the point which Krishna is saying here. One who has restrained their senses from the sense object, not just by forcibly controlling the senses, but based on the transcendental knowledge. That person is pragya pratishtita. Now, one of the next verse is a very beautiful verse, and again, very misunderstood verse also. So it's a very famous verse. Krishna says, Yah nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato muneh. What is night for all living beings is the day for self-control. Ya nisha sarva bhutana. For all the ordinary people, whatever is night, for a self-controlled person, that is day. Tasyam Jagrati Sanyami. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani. And whatever is the day for other ordinary living entities, Sa Nishaha Pashyato Mune. For a self-controlled person, for an introspective sage, that is like a night. So Krishna is not talking about geographical or chronological reference here. It's not that, oh, when there is day in India, then there is night in America, or when there is night in America, there is day in India. And talking about a spiritually awakened people, India is the land of spirituality. So when there is day there, night here. So Krishna is not talking about geographical or chronological reference. So Krishna has used the day and night as a figuratively speech here. People often confuse the meaning of this verse by taking the words literally. So some people take the word literally. There was once a Khade Baba. The name of Baba became as Khade Baba. Why? Because he took the meaning of this verse literally. He thought, oh, Krishna is saying whatever is the night for the ordinary people, that is the day for a self-controlled person. So what he was doing is all night he was trying to stand up so he will not fall asleep. So he had put some ropes and he was trying to put his arms on those ropes and stand like that so he will not fall down. So he can keep awake for a night of ordinary people. So Krishna is not talking about that kind of austerity that you forcibly stay awake at the whole night time. What Krishna is saying is for people with mundane consciousness, they look for material enjoyment. That is the real purpose of their life, right? Just enjoyment in this world. People earn so much money, then they go to parties, they go to pubs, casinos, they drink and they eat anything, and they try to drive happiness out of that. And so their enjoyment is starting in the late evenings, like 9, 10. That is the time when their parties are starting. People, we know people have their weekend parties. Friday evening, people have parties, or movie nights, late movie nights on Friday evening. People start their parties at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then 2, 3 a.m. is the time when they're going to sleep. And by that time, it is the time for the self-controlled person to get up in the morning and engage in his sadhana, right? Brahma Muhurta time, 4 o'clock. People are trying to get up, take bath, and engage in chanting and everything. So materially conscious person, mundane consciousness, their focus is material enjoyment. Their enjoyment is starting at that time, and by the time they are drinking and enjoying and making merry, after that they will, some people are falling on the street, some are in the gutter, some in their house in the bed, and they think, oh, this is enjoyment. In the morning they get up, they have a heavy head, then again next day start with working 10, 12 hours. So Krishna is talking about these people that their purpose of life is material enjoyment, and that is the day for them. But deprivation from sense enjoyment is the darkness, like the night for them. On the other hand, somebody who is wise, who is with transcendental knowledge, they see sense enjoyment as harmful for the soul. So they view it as sense enjoyment as darkness. The material mundane consciousness people see sense enjoyment as light, and deprivation from sense enjoyment as night. Whereas the person with transcendental knowledge, they see sense enjoyment as darkness, and restraining from sense enjoyment as night, restraining from sense enjoyment as the day. So that is the real meaning what Krishna is explaining here. So using these connotation of the words, Krishna is explaining what is a night for the sage is day for the worldly minded people, and vice versa. So there are two classes of people, right? One is materialistic, another is spiritualist. Or in a simple word, we can say one is bhakta, another is abhakta. For a bhakta, material enjoyment, sense enjoyment is night, and for a materialistic person, sense enjoyment is the day. So that is the point of this verse. Now, text 270 and 71, Krishna is summarizing how to live in this world if somebody really want to become peaceful and happy. So Krishna says a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So another example or analogy Krishna is giving here, like the example of the ocean and river. So many river rush into the ocean, but the ocean is not overflowing. Ocean is always still, satisfied. So same way, a person who is not disturbed by all the flow of desires. Sometimes the desires go from inward to outward because of our previous stored impression. We may have, based on our previous memory, we may develop some desire. So desire from inside, also desire go outside, and then sometimes desire come from outside to inside, right? Somebody comes to us and they show something, they show some product. Let's say some salesperson comes door to door selling, some salesperson come, oh, I have a very nice perfume, or I have very nice this product, something like that. So seeing those external things, sometimes desire enter inside. So desire go both way, sometimes from outside to inside or from inside to out. So Krishna is saying somebody who is not disturbed by this flow of desires, that alone can achieve peace, not the one who is always trying to strive for such desires. Now again, I will, I wanted to quote this. I have mentioned it once earlier. There are some companies like the Amway or Quickstar. They also, they have retreats also. We were talking about retreats. So they also have like quarterly retreats. And in that, they will have a big kind of motivational speech to encourage people. Oh, give your best, do work hard now so you can retire early and enjoy the life. So they make people work hard. Ultimately, their purpose is to sell more product of their company and make profit, but they want to utilize all these people. So they have this motivational talks to encourage people working hard. And then on the final day of their retreat, they have a 1 hour spiritual discourse also, and based on the faith of the person. So they will send people to different sections. Somebody from Christianity faith, they have a different motivational speak based on their faith. Somebody on Hinduism, they have their Bhagavad Gita 1 hour class. They will take verses of Bhagavad Gita and interpolate in such a way. They will try to tell person, see, Krishna is telling, oh, there is one should try to work hard to achieve their goals. They will try to kind of brainwash people like that, or influence negatively in that way, using the words of Bhagavad Gita. Now, where does in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, yes, if you have some desire, go ahead, try to fulfill all your desires, and that is the way of making your life successful? Here in this verse, Krishna is very clearly telling that one should try to not try to satisfy the desires, strive for all the desires. Somebody who is trying to strive for, who is striving for all the desires can never attain peace. So Krishna uses the word here, kama kami, the desirer of desires. Sometimes people expose themselves in such a way that they want to attract desires. People name it a fancy name, right? They give it a fancy name. They call it as dream building. They say, oh, we are having dream building night. So they want to hear to many other people how they became rich, how they got that big mansion, how they are able to afford these big cars, how they struggled hard to achieve all these things. So sometimes people will, these big motivational speaker, they will take them to the tour of their big mansions also, show them their fancy houses and fancy cars. and they call it as a dream building. So people also develop those sort of big dreams. But Krishna is saying completely opposite of that. Krishna is saying, don't do big dream building. Don't try to strive for satisfying all these desires, because one can never be peaceful in that way. When we see certain object, we desire for it. So as I said, the desire go from inside to outside. And then Krishna is saying desire coming to us also, right? In this particular verse, Krishna is saying desire come to us, like the river come to the ocean. So how does the desire come? We should, when the desire come, we should not accept those desires. As I said, if the salesperson come and they present so many different products here, nice cell phone or nice perfume or nice sari or something, right? We see some door-to-door selling happen in India. So many product come door-to-door selling. So one may say, not interested. Sorry, I am not interested in this. So here analogy is given is ocean has so much water, but when more and more water comes in the ocean, it does not overflow. In general scenario, yes, we know sometime rare scenarios there is tsunami when the ocean crosses its boundaries. But in general sense, what happens is ocean, no matter the rivers are continuously flowing into it, ocean stays within its boundary. But if there is a small puddle, now the scenario of small puddle is different. In a small puddle, when you pour more water into that, it will overflow. So why Krishna is giving this analogy of ocean is Krishna is saying we also internally should become like an ocean. And how we can become like an ocean internally? If we are remembering Krishna internally, Krishna is the ocean of joy. Krishna is Prema Sagar. So when we have Krishna in our heart, when we remember Krishna, and in that way we also become like an ocean internally, then these external disturbances, the external material pleasure will not disturb. But on the other hand, if we are dry internally, if we are like a puddle internally, right, then we will encourage external enjoyment to come in. Then we will seek out enjoyment in all these small, small things. Oh, some are eating outside or going to parties, going to birthday parties, going to this thing or that thing. So all small, small things, then we'll look for enjoyment in those things. So we should make our heart into an ocean. And how is that possible? When we have Krishna in our heart, when we take pleasure by keeping Krishna in the center, be it chanting of Krishna's name, doing the kirtan, hearing Krishna katha, having spending time with the devotees. So in that way, we drive that real happiness and we drive that peace. Peace comes not by indulgence, but by transcendence. So that is the carry home message through this particular verse Krishna is giving. Peace doesn't come when we are always trying to fulfill all our desires, because in that way one will be always disturbed. There is no question of peace when we are not satisfied at heart. Like when Vaman Dev came to Bali Maharaj, Vaman Dev was asked to beg, right? Bali Maharaj told, ask me anything. And Bali Maharaj said, just give me 3 footsteps of land. And Bali Maharaj started laughing. Oh, you should ask based on the caliber of person who is giving, not based on your caliber. When a person is able to give much more, you should ask based on his caliber. So ask more. And Vaman Dev that time said a very beautiful point, that if somebody is not satisfied at the heart, no matter how much he have, he will never be satisfied. So the best thing is to develop that satisfaction in the heart. And same thing, when any sages they visit any kings, like Vashishta Muni when he comes visit Dashrath Maharaj, or Vishwamitra when visits Dashrath Maharaj, anytime when any sage visit a king, they ask the king, are you satisfied? Are you doing your duties perfectly? Are you taking care of your kingdom nicely. Because the point is, are you satisfied at heart? Or you are always disturbed by your senses, disturbed by the various desires? So, continuation to this, in text 71, Krishna says, how to derive that peace and happiness. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from greed, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, and one who is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. So, fourth thing Krishna is saying. So, in the previous verse, Krishna said, somebody who is not striving for fulfilling all desires. Now, the four things Krishna saying in this verse, one is repetition, that one who has given up all desires for sense gratification, and then three more things are free from greed, free from proprietorship, and free from false ego. That person can attain real peace. And the same principle Krishna explained later in chapter 5 also, where Krishna says, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, that I am somebody who knows me as the controller of everything, as the enjoyer of everything, as the bell wisher, friend of everybody. That person can attain real peace. So here Krishna is saying same way, somebody who is not greedy, who is not having that sense of proprietorship, and who is devoid of false ego, that can attain peace. So free from desire to enjoy means somebody need to have renunciation of certain level. Now renunciation is also of different types. A first level of renunciation is called markat vairagya. Markat vairagya means artificially showing some renunciation for a small period. That's why it's called markat vairagya. Like a monkey's renunciation. Monkey cannot renounce for long time. If monkey try to stay away from something, he cannot stay for long time. Sometimes people may experience some renunciation for a short time. Let's say sometime there is a death in the family, or certain situation like this happen in the family, in the life, then people feel certain level of renunciation, some certain level of vairagya. But again, after few days, again normal life continues, normal routine continues. So that is markat vairagya. Like Sugriva was also telling, when Vali was killed, Sugriva started crying, beating his chest. Oh, what is the use of my life? Better I also give up my life. Because of me, my brother got killed because I was so much um, greedy about the kingdom and all. So Sugriva was speaking like this. But ultimately, Lord Ram, he knew, right? This is markat vairagya he's showing. Earlier, he had a desire to enjoy, he had a desire for kingdom. And after Bali is killed, he is just having a temporary renunciation. Second level of renunciation is Falgu Vairagya. Falgu Vairagya is also a temporary or a show business renunciation. And then Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means engaging everything for service of Krishna. We may have some facilities, some luxuries of life, but when we utilize those in service of Krishna, that is called Yukta Vairagya. That yes, we have all these material things with us, but we are not utilizing it for personal sense enjoyment, rather for Krishna service. Somebody has a big house. Okay, no problem. You have a very big house, but you are using that house in service of Krishna. You are inviting people to come and have satsang. There are sannyasis coming in your home, and you are inviting everybody to hear about Krishna, serve them prasadam. So that is a very wonderful thing. Yes, you have all these facilities, enjoy, utilize in service of Krishna. Somebody has a nice camera, latest technology devices, you use in service of Krishna. People take DT pictures, daily darshan, and post in WhatsApp and Facebook, and also other people can take darshan. Having the technology is not bad, but utilizing it in service of Krishna, that is Yukta Vairagya. So Krishna is saying four things here: material desire. The moment we harbor a desire, we walk into a trap of greed and anger, right? ध्यायतो विषयान पुंसा संघास तेषोपजायते संघात संजायते कामा कामात क्रोधोपजायते. So that verse was also telling about when the moment we harbor the desire, then we walk into this trap of greed and anger. So either way, we get trapped. So the path to inner peace does not lie in fulfilling desires, but instead eliminating those desires. Then second thing is greed. So first thing is greed for material advancement is also a great waste of time. Secondly, in a endless chase, right, that is also greed. So either we are trying for material advancement in terms of in the developed country, let's say, people have so many things to eat, so many things to wear, so many of the nice gadgets, nice facilities, yet people remain disturbed. They have all the washers and dryers, the work can be finished so quickly, but still people are too busy, right? People are still so disturbed. This is because hankering is not satisfied. The hankering is still unsatisfied. So those who possess the wealth, and the wealth of contentment is one's biggest treasure of life. If somebody is content with his life, then the third thing Krishna is saying is false ego. If we see most of the quarrels which happen between people is because of false ego. There is a famous author who wrote a book that what they don't teach you at Harvard Business School. So that is the kind of title of the book. So he says in most corporates, the people who are at the executive position, they have the biggest giant egos. And the statistics says that the majority of executives, why they lose their job from that senior management level is not because of their professional incompetency, but because of interpersonal issues. And why these interpersonal issue come? Because of ego. So the way to peace is not to nurture and increase our ego and pride, but to get rid of that. Right? That is how one can attain that peace. Otherwise, every time somebody said something, somebody did something, if somebody becomes disturbed with that, angry with that, and no, my way or highway, right? That principle is why? Because of ego, my way or highway. Either you do what I say or I don't want to entertain this idea. So that is ego. So Krishna is saying giving up this ego. And then the fourth thing is proprietorship. The feeling of proprietorship is also based on ignorance, because the whole world belongs to God. Ishavasya idam sarvam. Krishna says everything belongs to the Supreme Lord and everyone has their quota. But when we don't accept our quota and we want to encroach upon others' quota, that's where the problem is. We start thinking ourselves as the proprietor of things. Ultimately, we came empty-handed, we will leave empty-handed. So one should give up this sense of proprietorship. And one who is practicing spirituality, one is not interested in their own peace only. They are interested in the peace of everyone. Why the sannyasis, they are taking so much trouble, so much of hard work to do all this and travel across the world so they can make other people peaceful. They can make other people understand the peace is not in fulfilling the desires, but peace is in giving up the material desires. So a real spiritualist practicing, the one who is practicing spirituality, they are caring for the peace of the whole world. So that's why in our Shanti mantras, there are Shanti prayer at different level. There is Shanti prayer at personal level. The Astoma Sadgamaya, right? Let me go from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light. And then there is prayer, the next part says, which is asking for peace for other people. Sarvam Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Let everybody become peaceful, happy. And then we are calling out the peace for the earth, the water in air. Om Dhyayo Shanti. So our Shanti mantras are talking about peace at personal level, at people all over the world, and then even at the level of earth, water, fire, air, ether, all the material elements. So the concluding verse, text number 72, Krishna says, Esha Brahmi Sthita Partha Brahma Nirvanam Rachati. So one who is situated in that transcendental knowledge, that person attains to the kingdom of God. Brahma Nirvanam Rachati. Now here Brahma Nirvana is not some impersonal state, because this word Nirvana is also very popular. Right? People say, oh, I want Nirvana, liberation. Nirvana means liberation. So here Brahma Nirvana doesn't mean some impersonal liberation, that merging into some Brahma Jyoti or something, but Krishna says that person will attain to the kingdom of God, that highest destination from where there is no coming back, which Krishna here just gives a hint. But in the later parts of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speak clearly about that higher destination. Krishna says, attaining that higher destination, one does not come back. And there is no need of fire, there is no need of sun in that abode. It's self illuminated. And there is no lamentation, there is no old age, there is no death at that place. So, somebody who is Brahmi Sthita, who is self-realized, situated in transcendental knowledge, that person is eligible to attain to that state. So second chapter of Bhagavad Gita overall is considered as the whole content of Bhagavad Gita summarized. Gita ka sar. So we'll end it here today, concluding this one. So we conclude the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. If anybody has any comments, any questions, please feel free to share.
Only question I have is, Prabhuji, prasad, the word is used so many times in this. What prasad we give prasad to when we go to the temple and they give prasad, and then there are, here Krishna is using prasad in another way. So what are the different meanings of prasad?
So prasad, there is only one meaning of prasad. That meaning is mercy of the Lord. Okay, that is the literal meaning of prasad. Now mercy of the Lord comes in form of his glance. It comes in form of the prasad in terms of the food remnant which is offered to the Lord. That is also prasad, because that is also mercy of the Lord. So the meaning of prasad is mercy of Lord. It could be in various forms. It could be in terms of blessing of the devotees. It could be in terms of the glance of the Lord. It could be in terms of food remnant of the Lord, or the flower or tulsi offered to the Lord, in terms of Lord's lotus feet kept on our head. All those are prasad. And receiving that transcendental knowledge, that is also prasad. So here Krishna is talking about receiving that transcendental knowledge, right? So prasade adhigachati. So somebody who has received that prasad as a transcendental knowledge. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Anybody else? Anything?
Prabhuji, that comment about ego was very, very good. I guess maybe you've spoken about this before as well. Is how do you control your ego?
So controlling ego, again, it comes with our better and better understanding of from scriptures based on various examples. And it comes with experience also. As practicing devotees, still, yes, we may have ego, right? And the purpose is slowly to give up our ego. And the best thing is to understand when something wrong happens, not seeing other person as the reason for our problem, rather than seeing that, oh, it's my own past karma. That's why this happened with me. I know one very beautiful statement which Jugal Kishore Prabhu made once is, don't criticize the instruments of your karma. So very beautiful and powerful statement if you introspect on that. Do not criticize the instrument of your own karma. So somebody may have done something wrong to us and we start blaspheming or criticizing that person. Oh, he did this to me or that to me. Because we are holding on to our ego. Ultimately, we should think, maybe I made that person act in that way. I did something, that's how this person reacted in that way. So I'm telling from my personal experience also, which I have kind of learned over the years. And so to control the ego is another beautiful example which I quote based on the Avanti Brahman pastime. We should think our mind is the real problem, not anybody else, not anybody other person or our body and mind. Our body or our circumstance, our time is the cause of my problem. It's the mind. Because my mind has so many previous impressions and I have so strong ego. I think myself to be somebody special, right? When we start considering ourselves, when we put a more value to ourselves, that is the problem, right? So
Yeah.
let's say somebody is a practicing devotee also, but then we put more value to ourselves. We think, oh, I'm somebody special, they should save special prasad for me. I was doing service and they should save a plate for me, they should save some special prasad for me. And if they did not do, or somebody forgot to save prasad, we feel bad. Oh, how come they did not keep prasad for me? I am somebody special. That is also because of our ego. Because we are putting some more value to ourselves. Our goal is to come to that level of mentality, thinking I am the servant of the servant of servant. King Kula Shekhara goes to the 7 layers of this: servant of the 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 servant. So until we develop that mindset really in practice, it's very hard to give up that proprietorship, controllership, that false ego mentality. So we need to practice that. That's why the word we use is servant leadership, right? We don't call it as just a leader, that, oh, I am the leader. Our principle is servant leadership, that I am the servant. Yes, I am in the leadership role, but I'm serving other people and showing by example. We don't command others, oh, you also do this. Better is to show by example, working with them. If I tell, oh, please set up all the chairs, and when I myself engage in that and engage other people in doing that, then it's much more impactful, right? So all these small things are like giving up our false ego and coming to the level of servitorship, like I am the servant of servants. Does that make sense, bro?
Yeah, Prabhuji, it does. It's just, when I think about all the challenges a person faces, in their journey for some of these things, I sometimes think the ego is probably the hardest challenge one has. You can give up
Right.
many things in life, but the ego part is perhaps, maybe you give up sometimes, some instances, but it's probably the hardest.
Right.
When I look at all the things one could be giving up in life, right? It's probably the hardest. I
Very
wouldn't call
true.
it quality, but uh, I'm not sure what's the right word to call it, but
Anartha, the biggest
anartha,
anartha give up is
anartha.
false ego.
Yeah, anartha.
So that's very true, because we see ego is there in everybody, right? Even a small child has ego. Who taught him? But the child also has ego. A small child, 3 4 year old child, he also thinks, oh, this is my toy. And if he makes a mistake, you tell him, say sorry. Even the small child doesn't want to say sorry, right? Because that ego is there. that no, I am right. Why should I say sorry? So that is ego, and ego is so deep rooted. That's because our false identification. The literal meaning of ego is false identification. There is real ego, there is false ego, and there is real ego. Real ego means understanding I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am the servant of Krishna. That is real ego, understanding our real identity. But when we understand ourselves, identifying with this body and thinking I am this position, I am this body, that is false ego. And you said it correctly, it's very difficult, maybe the last thing which goes as a false ego. And
Yeah.
it shows, I mean, I don't want to go into too many of technical details also. When somebody starts journey to the spiritual world also, all the material elements starts to drop, and when person reaches the Viraja river, which is as a boundary between the material world and spiritual world, that's where the last element, the false ego, drops.
Mhm.
So false ego is the last thing which drops out in that way.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So there's a constant practice.
Is that, Prabhuji, you call Sukshma Hankar?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. But that is true, that's so, and then you merge into Mahattattva. Till that time, you are just
Right.
still
So
that
that
Sukshma
Sukshama
Hankar is.
Ankara is there till somebody is crossing beyond that borderline, that boundary.
That's where the whole birth and life cycle starts. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, very good.
Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for joining on this special Nirjala Ekadashi day, very, very auspicious. So hopefully you are able to observe the fasting on Ekadashi, even if not Nirjala, at least to some level, right? Observing Ekadashi Vrata is very, very important, one of the limb of our sadhana bhakti. So,
Nirjala means we shall, Prabhuji will not have water for some time. I mean, whole day, or
yes,
is it that?
Nirjala Ekadashi means for the whole duration of Ekadashi, there is no water also, complete fast, even from water. So that is Nirjala Ekadashi. Somebody who is not able to do Nirjala, they can do it on water, or somebody can do it on fruits and juice, maybe something like that. So based on their capacity, they can observe. But we should observe Ekadashi Vrata in some way or other, right? No eating grains and beans, those sort of things, and engaging more in spiritual activities.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you once again, everyone. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.